Dear friends, welcome to this special storytelling drama. This story is for everyone who has ever written New Year resolutions with hope in their hearts, only to struggle to keep them alive as the months roll by. Today's story is titled, The Resolution That Almost Faded. Every new year comes with fresh excitement, fresh notebooks and fresh promises. But somewhere between January and December, many of those promises quietly disappear. This story follows the journey of a woman named Marianna, whose resolutions began with passion but slowly drifted away, and how she learned to turn fading goals into lasting purpose. The room felt unusually still, as though time itself had paused to listen. The ticking of the wall clock echoed louder than usual, each second landing heavily on Marianna's heart. Outside, fireworks burst in brilliant colors, but inside her room, silence ruled. Marianna sat alone at her small wooden table. The lamp cast a soft glow on her notebook, its blank pages staring back at her like a question waiting for an answer. She took a deep breath and said quietly that she had reached a point where excuses were no longer acceptable. Her voice cracked slightly as she reminded herself of the many New Year resolutions she had written before, lists filled with hope that slowly faded into forgotten pages. She said aloud that she had promised herself change too many times to count, and yet each year ended with regret. As the final seconds counted down, voices outside shouted joyfully. When the clock struck midnight, cheers erupted, but Marianna remained seated. She bowed her head, whispered a short prayer, and said that if this year was going to be different, she would have to be different too. She picked up her pen and began to write slowly. With each resolution she paused and spoke as if speaking to her future self. She said that waking up early would no longer be optional. She declared that prayer and planning would shape her mornings before distractions could steal them away. She said that books would replace endless scrolling and that savings would protect her from tomorrow's uncertainties. She promised that her health would no longer be neglected and that her spiritual life would no longer be postponed. When she finished, she leaned back and stared at the list for a long moment. She smiled softly and said that this list was not just a set of goals, it was a declaration of who she wanted to become. Closing the notebook, she held it tightly to her chest and whispered that this year would finally answer her prayers. January arrived with energy and clarity. Each morning, Marianna's alarm rang, and she rose quickly, surprising even herself. She spoke confidently, saying that waking early felt empowering. She prayed quietly, wrote reflections in her journal, and planned her day with intention. She told herself that discipline felt lighter than regret. One morning, she called her friend Clara and excitedly shared how different the year felt. She told Clara that she had already completed several chapters of her book and felt mentally refreshed. She said joyfully that something inside her had shifted and that she was finally living on purpose. At work, Marianna noticed changes too. She carried herself differently. She smiled more easily and spoke with confidence. When colleagues complained about the year ahead, she encouraged them, saying that every new beginning carried hidden opportunities. At night, she reviewed her day carefully. She spoke with satisfaction, saying that consistency was easier than she had imagined when she stopped overthinking it. She truly believed she had finally cracked the code of self-discipline. By mid-February, the fire of January began to cool. One morning, the alarm rang, but Marianna remained still. She stared at the ceiling and said softly that one extra hour of sleep would not destroy her progress. She reassured herself that rest was necessary. She slept again. That evening, she picked up her book but placed it back on the shelf, promising she would read tomorrow. Tomorrow quietly became next week. Her journal remained untouched. Her prayer time shortened. Her savings routine became inconsistent. Each small delay felt harmless on its own, but together they formed a quiet drift. Marianna avoided her notebook entirely. She told herself she was busy, but deep down she knew she was avoiding disappointment. The drift made no noise. There were no alarms, no warnings, just slow neglect disguised as comfort. March arrived with pressure and responsibilities. Marianna found herself explaining every missed habit. She told herself that work had become overwhelming and that routines could wait. She reasoned that stress demanded rest, not discipline. Whenever guilt whispered, excuses rose quickly to silence it. She told herself that prayer did not need structure, and that reading books was not urgent. She convinced herself that saving money could resume later when life became calmer. One evening, her brother casually asked how her New Year resolutions were progressing. Marianna laughed lightly and replied that everything was under control and that she was taking things slowly. After he left, the room grew quiet. She sat alone and whispered that she was tired of pretending, tired of avoiding her own truth. She admitted softly that excuses had become more comfortable than change. One Saturday morning, Marianna stood before her mirror longer than usual. She studied her reflection carefully and spoke honestly for the first time in weeks. She admitted that nothing external had stopped her. She said that no one had forced her to quit, she had chosen comfort over commitment. She confessed that she had confused motivation with discipline and treated her resolutions like optional hobbies rather than life-shaping decisions. Tears streamed down her face as she admitted that her greatest fear was not failure, but repeating the same cycle again. She picked up her notebook and whispered that she missed the woman she had been in January. That evening, Marianna visited her aunt, Mrs. Helen. As they sat together, Marianna poured out her heart. She explained how she had started strong and slowly faded. She admitted that she no longer trusted herself to keep promises. Mrs. Helen listened quietly, then spoke gently, saying that excitement was a poor manager of destiny. She explained that goals collapse when they depend on feelings alone. She said that systems outlive motivation, and that discipline was not punishment but daily self-respect. She reminded Marianna that progress required planning for resistance, not perfection. Marianna listened carefully, absorbing every word. Marianna asked what she should do now that several months had already passed. Her aunt smiled and replied that time was not the enemy, unwisdom was. She explained that the year was a tool, not a judge, and that real change began the moment clarity replaced guilt. She said that goals must be reviewed, adjusted, and protected like valuable property. Marianna realized she had planned for excitement but never prepared for fatigue. That night, Marianna returned home with a new mindset. She reopened her notebook and rewrote each resolution carefully. This time, she added clear times, simple actions, reminders, and fallback plans. She spoke aloud, saying that she would choose simplicity over perfection and consistency over intensity. She committed to progress, not pressure. Every Sunday evening, Marianna reviewed her goals honestly. She celebrated small victories and corrected her mistakes without condemnation. When she missed a day, she resumed the next without guilt. She said repeatedly that quitting was no longer an option. By December, Marianna flipped through pages filled with reflections, lessons, and growth. She smiled with gratitude and said she had become disciplined, intentional, and self-aware. She realized that the greatest reward was not the goals achieved, but the person she had become. What should we do to make New Year resolutions effective? 1. Turn resolutions into systems. Most people write resolutions as end results instead of daily processes. A goal without a system depends on memory, mood, and motivation, and those things are unreliable. A system is what you do every day, even when you don't feel inspired. Instead of saying, "I want to read 12 books this year," create a system that says, "I will read 10 pages every night before bed." Instead of saying, "I want to be prayerful," create a system that says, "I will pray for 10 minutes every morning at 6:30 a.m. When the system is clear, the result takes care of itself. Goals decide direction, but systems decide success. 2. Attach purpose, not pressure. Many resolutions fail because they are driven by pressure, comparison, or guilt. When the pressure disappears, the goal disappears with it. Purpose gives your goal meaning, not just urgency. If your goal is to save money, don't just say, "I must save this year." Ask yourself, is it for peace of mind? Is it for family stability? Is it for future opportunities? When saving becomes about security instead of suffering, consistency becomes easier. If your goal is spiritual growth, don't do it because others expect it. Do it because it shapes your character, decisions, and future. Pressure pushes for a while, purpose pulls for a lifetime. 3. Review regularly. Goals die quietly when they are not reviewed. Many people fail not because they stop trying, but because they stop checking. Reviewing helps you notice drift early, before failure becomes permanent. A weekly review might include questions like, what did I do well this week? Where did I struggle? What needs adjustment? A monthly review helps you ask, is this goal still realistic? Do I need to simplify my approach? Am I progressing or just busy? What you don't review, you eventually abandon. 4. Expect imperfection. Perfectionism is one of the greatest enemies of consistency. Many people quit completely because they missed one day. But progress is not destroyed by mistakes, it is destroyed by quitting. If you plan to exercise 5 days a week and only did 3, the solution is not to give up. The solution is to continue. If you missed a day of prayer or reading, don't punish yourself by stopping entirely. Resume the next day. Falling once is human, refusing to rise is a choice. 5. Build accountability. Self-discipline is powerful, but accountability multiplies commitment. When someone knows your goal, your excuses lose strength. Accountability is not about control, it is about support. Share your goal with a trusted friend. Join a group with similar goals. Have a weekly check-in where progress is discussed honestly. When someone asks, how is it going? It reminds you that your goal matters. What you protect in private grows stronger in public accountability. 6. Focus on identity. Lasting change happens when goals move from what you do to who you are becoming. Behavior follows identity. Instead of saying, I want to wake up early, say, I am becoming a disciplined person. Instead of saying, I want to stop wasting money, say, I am becoming a wise and intentional steward. When identity changes, habits follow naturally. Don't chase habits, build character. 7. Think beyond the year. Many resolutions fail because they are tied only to the calendar. But life transformation does not end in December. True goals should still matter, even if there was no new year. Spiritual growth is not a one-year project. Discipline is not seasonal. Character development has no deadline. Ask yourself, will this goal still matter in 5 years? If yes, it's worth pursuing patiently. A meaningful resolution should shape your life, not just your year. Lessons to learn. 1. Excitement starts goals, but discipline sustains them. Motivation is loud at the beginning, but discipline is quiet and faithful over time. 2. Consistency is more powerful than motivation. Doing small things regularly beats doing big things occasionally. 3. Reflection prevents silent failure. Failure rarely happens suddenly. It happens slowly when reflection stops. 4. Small daily steps create lifelong transformation. Great lives are built one ordinary day at a time. A new year does not change anyone by itself. But intentional living, daily discipline, and purposeful systems can change a lifetime. Marianna's story reminds us that the new year is not magic, but intentional living is. Resolutions fail when they are written for the moment instead of built for life. If this story spoke to your heart, take a moment today to review your resolutions. Rewrite them with wisdom. Start again with clarity. And remember, it is never too late to live intentionally.